Hello and welcome to our journey. Have you ever considered the true beginning of our collective story? I'm not talking about the origins of humankind or the first great hunting parties. I'm talking about the first moment we, as a species, started to write our own history down. The very first page, inscribed with human intent, telling us about their lives, their inventories, their rulers. For countless generations, our ancestors lived and died, building incredible monuments, crafting beautiful art. But they left us no direct record of their thoughts, their fears, or their ambitions. Their stories were oral, their history was memory, passed from one generation to the next, around campfires and in ceremonial halls. What we are about to explore is the precise moment that all changed. We are going to journey back over 5,500 years to the pivotal half-millennium between 3,500 and 3,000 BCE, the very instant that the human story began to be recorded in a permanent, verifiable form. This is the dawn of history, and it is a fascinating and often surprising place to be. Now, before we can truly appreciate the dawn of history, we need to understand what came immediately before it. This is a crucial, fundamental distinction that guides archaeologists and historians in their work. Many of you are no doubt aware of incredible, mind-bending archaeological sites that predate this period by thousands of years. Let's take a look at a few examples, as they are often incorrectly conflated with early history. First, we have Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. This is a site of colossal scale, a monumental ceremonial complex of T-shaped pillars built by hunter-gatherers over 11,000 years ago. Its discovery completely upended our previous understanding of early human organization. The sheer effort and coordination required to build this site proves that complex, non-agricultural societies were far more capable than we ever gave them credit for. In the same region, we find Karahan Tepe, a site of similar age with even more striking human and animal carvings. The art here is deeply evocative, depicting faces, snakes, and other creatures in a way that suggests a rich, symbolic, and spiritual world. We can see their art, and we can marvel at it. Then we have the ancient settlement of Tel Caramel in Syria, where we find evidence of circular stone towers and walls dating back to around 9,600 BCE, making them some of the oldest in the world. And of course, the famous walled city of Jericho, whose earliest foundations date back to the 9th millennium BCE. The remains of its impressive stone tower and walls demonstrate a sophisticated level of communal effort and engineering prowess that is truly astonishing for its time. These are all staggering accomplishments of our ancestors, but they share a key defining feature. They fall into the category we call prehistory. The reason is simple, but it's a concept that is absolutely essential to understanding our subject. There is no writing. With prehistory, all we have are the physical remains, the stone tools, the pottery, the buildings, the bones, that we, the archaeologists and historians of today, must interpret. There is no first-hand account. We have no definitive record of what the builders of Göbekli Tepe called themselves, what language they spoke, what their myths were, or what they believed. Their history is our educated interpretation of their material culture. Our focus today is fundamentally different. We are looking at the moment humanity started telling its own story. We're going to explore the world's first true history, a history told not through our modern interpretations of mute objects, but through the marks and symbols left by the people themselves. It's the moment the oral traditions of the past began to be a historical record for the future. And it all begins in Mesopotamia. Our journey begins in the heart of what we call the Fertile Crescent, a verdant ribbon of land between the two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This is Mesopotamia, a name that literally means the land between the rivers. And it's here, in the southern region known as Sumer, that we find the earliest, most compelling evidence of a truly urban, organized society. The period we're focusing on, 3,500 to 3,000 BCE, is widely known as the Uruk period, a name given to it by archaeologists after the city that would become the most powerful and influential of its time. The city of Uruk, modern-day Warqa in Iraq, was not just a village. It was a bona fide metropolis, a sprawling urban center with a population that may have reached 40,000 or more by the end of this period. This wasn't a gradual collection of huts. This was a deliberate, planned city, a complex web of administration, religion, and economic activity. Archaeological excavations at Uruk, particularly those led by German teams starting in the early 20th century, have revealed monumental architecture on a scale that was simply unprecedented. The city was divided into several key districts, most notably the Eanna district, dedicated to the goddess Inanna. This area was not a residential neighborhood. It was a hub of bureaucracy and religious life. At the very heart of the city stood the White Temple, built atop a massive ziggurat, a stepped temple platform. This temple was a dazzling symbol of civic and religious authority, visible for miles across the flat Mesopotamian plains. We can only imagine the sight of its whitewashed mud brick walls glinting in the sun, a beacon of power and devotion. These colossal structures weren't built by a handful of people. They required immense coordination, a massive labor force, and a surplus of resources, all clear indicators of a highly organized, hierarchical society with a powerful centralized administration. The sheer logistics of feeding and organizing the thousands of laborers needed for such a project tells us that the leaders of Uruk had developed sophisticated systems of management. But the most significant discovery at Uruk was not a building or a piece of art. It was a new technology, a technology of the mind. Around 3400 to 3200 BCE, the earliest form of cuneiform writing was developed. These first tablets, known as proto-cuneiform, are fundamentally different from the later, more literary cuneiform. They began as a system of pictograms. For example, a drawing of a head might represent a head, and a drawing of a bowl might represent food. These symbols were then combined to express more complex ideas. And what were the very first things people wrote about? Not epic poems, not heroic tales, not even royal decrees. The very first things were the mundane, the practical, the absolutely essential. Accounting. These earliest tablets, found in the tens of thousands at sites like Uruk and the later Jemdet Nasr, are almost exclusively inventories. They list grain, they list livestock, they list the beer rations for workers, a major part of the compensation for laborers. They are the world's first receipts, bills of lading, and spreadsheets. For the first time, a civilization could keep track of itself in a systematic, non-oral way, managing its vast resources with a precision that was previously impossible. This wasn't just a change in communication, it was a change in how a society could organize itself. It's the very foundation of bureaucracy. A particularly fascinating type of tablet from this period, known as the lexical lists, provide glimpses into the social hierarchy of Uruk and categorized and structured information about the various occupations in society. These tables have listed over 100 different occupations, from a high-ranking official to various types of priests, metalworkers, and scribes. The very existence of these lists show a society that had grown so complex that it needed to catalog its own social structure. These are documents of profound importance, giving us a window into the division of labor and the specialization that characterized this burgeoning urban society. Another key artifact from this period is the cylinder seal. These small, often beautifully carved stone cylinders, when rolled onto a wet clay tablet or a lump of clay sealing a jar, left a unique, repeating impression. They served as a signature, a stamp of authority, and a way to secure goods. The intricate carvings on these seals offer us a breathtaking window into the artistic and religious beliefs of the time, depicting scenes of religious processions, mythological figures, and daily life. The proliferation of these seals is a testament to the increasing complexity of administration and trade in a society that was rapidly expanding its influence. The seals allowed for verifiable identity and ownership in a world where trade was becoming more extensive and trust was a complex issue. While Uruk was the superstar, other Mesopotamian cities were also flourishing and are vital to our understanding. Eridu, for example, is a site with an incredibly deep history. Believed by the Sumerians themselves to be the very first city founded, Archaeological layers at the site show a continuous tradition of temple building on the same spot for thousands of years, with the earliest dating back to the Ubaid period. The evidence here paints a picture of long-term cultural and religious continuity, a deep sense of place that predates the written word, but is then captured by it, linking ancient oral traditions to the emerging historical record. The discovery of layers upon layers of temples, each built on the ruins of the last, gives us a physical timeline of devotion in this sacred city. Excavations at other sites, like Jemdet Nasser and Kish, also provide invaluable information. These sites have yielded some of the same proto-cuneiform tablets, showing that the system of writing and administration was not confined to a single city, but was part of a larger interconnected Sumerian network. These discoveries challenge the idea of Uruk as a totally unique entity, and instead paint a picture of a vibrant, interconnected region where ideas, goods, and administrative practices were shared. The sheer amount of information we have from this period, though often fragmented, gives us an unprecedented look into the inner workings of the very first urban societies. This period, from 3500 to 3000 BCE in Mesopotamia, truly represents the birth of history. It wasn't just about a new way to communicate, it was about a new way to think, to organize, and to remember. It was the moment that the past began to have a written record, and it laid the foundation for every civilization that would follow. It is a story of clay, reeds, and a handful of brilliant individuals who changed the world forever. As these incredible developments were unfolding in Mesopotamia, just a stone's throw away, separated by a vast sea of sand, another great civilization was being forged. The period from 3500 to 3000 BCE in Egypt is known by archaeologists as the Naqada III period, or the late pre-dynastic period. This was a time of immense political consolidation, a complex process of rival city-states and powerful chiefdoms vying for control of the life-giving Nile Valley, ultimately leading to the unification of Egypt and the dawn of the Pharaonic Age. The geography of Egypt is fundamental to its story. The Nile River flows from south to north, creating two distinct regions: Upper Egypt in the south, a narrow fertile valley, and Lower Egypt in the north, a broad delta where the river spreads out into the Mediterranean. Throughout this period, powerful rulers from the south, from places like Hierakonpolis and Abydos, began to exert their influence northward. The archaeological record from this period in Egypt is fascinatingly different from Mesopotamia's. While we have a few early administrative texts, they are far less common. Instead, we find our earliest writing on items of immense royal and ceremonial significance, most notably in the royal cemetery at Abydos. This site, known as el-Ka'ab, or Mother of Pots, is the burial ground of the earliest Egyptian rulers, a place of immense historical importance. It was here, in a tomb designated as Tomb UJ, that a German archaeological team in the 1980s made a discovery that pushed back the date of Egyptian writing by several centuries. Inside this tomb, which is believed to belong to a ruler known as Scorpion I, they discovered small bone and ivory tags with the earliest known examples of hieroglyphic writing. These tags, attached to jars and other goods, served a function similar to the Sumerian tablets. They identified the contents. For example, some tags appear to list quantities of oil and other goods, while others seem to represent the names of places and institutions. But their context is a royal burial, not a city granary. This immediately tells us something crucial about the nature of early Egyptian society. It was a world where royal power, religion, and the afterlife were absolutely central to the emerging state. The earliest writing was not just for business. It was a tool for the king to maintain order and authority, even in death. We also have other ceremonial artifacts that provide incredible insight into this period. The most famous is undoubtedly the Nama palette, a 2-foot-tall stone slab which many scholars believe records the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the rule of King Narmer. Though this momentous event likely happened right at the very end of our period, around 3100 to 3000 BCE. The palette is a striking piece of propaganda showing King Narmer wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt, smiting his enemies. It's a powerful visual narrative that demonstrates a shift from small-scale chiefdoms to a unified, centralized, and aggressive state. It's a snapshot of a turning point in history, a moment when one man's will became the law of a nation. The royal tombs at Abydos are a true treasure trove of information about this era. They show an incredible concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a single ruler. The main burial chambers are often surrounded by dozens, and in some cases hundreds of subsidiary graves. These smaller tombs are believed to contain the bodies of retainers, servants, and even animals who were sacrificed to accompany the king into the afterlife. While a somber and brutal detail, it speaks volumes about the absolute authority of the early Egyptian kings and the profound belief in the afterlife that would come to define their civilization for the next 3 millennia. The sheer scale and complexity of these burials are the physical manifestation of a powerful, unified state, where the king was a divine figure whose journey into the next world required the devotion of his entire court. So, while the writing of this period is not as extensive as in Sumer, it provides an equally important picture. It shows us a society in a process of rapid change, where an emerging divine kingship was using the new technology of writing to legitimize its rule and establish a permanent legacy. The shift from scattered chiefdoms to a unified kingdom was not easy, and the evidence from these tombs shows the immense power, wealth, and ideological control that the first pharaohs commanded. This was a period where the very idea of a nation-state was being born, and the new writing system was the tool that helped cement its authority. As these momentous events were unfolding in the Middle East and North Africa, on the Indian subcontinent, along the Indus River, another civilization was beginning to take shape. The period we're examining here is often called the early Harappan or pre-Harappan period. While the great sprawling urban centers of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa would flourish later, the foundations for that society were being meticulously laid right now, in the late 4th millennium BCE. Archaeological excavations at sites like Mehrgarh in modern-day Pakistan, while with a history stretching back to 7000 BCE, show a continuous cultural development that set the stage for the Indus Valley civilization. It's in the later layers of Mehrgarh and other sites like Nausharo that we see the first inklings of a complex urban society. The architectural remains from this period show a gradual transition from simple mud brick houses to more organized rectilinear structures. We find increasingly sophisticated pottery, often decorated with geometric and animal motifs, and evidence of long-distance trade with other regions, including Mesopotamia. These artifacts tell us that these early communities were not isolated. They were part of a wider network of exchange and cultural contact. We also find distinctive terracotta figurines, many of them female, which provide a rare glimpse into the art and potential religious beliefs of these ancient people. But what makes the Indus Valley so unique, and in some ways so frustrating for historians, is that its writing system, known as the Indus script, is still completely undeciphered. We know they were literate. We have thousands of seals and tablets with their script, but we don't know what they wrote. This means that for now, the Indus Valley of this period remains on the very cusp of history and prehistory. It's a tantalizing mystery that makes the archaeological record our only true guide to a brilliant and enigmatic civilization. We can analyze the structure of the script and we can speculate on its purpose. But without a Rosetta Stone, its meaning remains lost to us. What we can infer from the material culture is a society that seems to have developed along a different path than its contemporaries. There is less evidence of the massive, centralized, and highly unequal power structures seen in Mesopotamia and Egypt. The early settlements show signs of careful planned layouts, suggesting a strong sense of civic organization and communal planning. The sheer number of seals with the Indus script suggests a widespread, literate administrative or merchant class, but we don't find the same kind of royal tombs or colossal palaces that dominate the archaeological record of our other two regions. This points to a different model of governance, one that may have been more decentralized and focused on commerce and communal life. The period between 3500 and 3000 BCE was not an end, but a breathtaking beginning. The invention of writing in Mesopotamia, a direct response to the needs of a complex urban economy, laid the groundwork for all future administration, law, and literature. The unification of Egypt under a single king, a process recorded on royal palettes and in the grandeur of early tombs, established the very idea of a divine kingship and a unified nation-state that would endure for millennia. And in the Indus Valley, the foundations of a unique urban civilization were being laid, one that would soon build vast, carefully planned cities and develop a mysterious script that still holds its secrets. These were not isolated events. They were the crucial, foundational steps that gave rise to the world's first great empires, city-states, and complex literate societies. This was the moment where the oral tradition of the past was finally and permanently transcribed as a historical record for the future. And it's this fragile, incredible legacy that allows us, over 5,000 years later, to piece together the very first chapter of the human story. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the dawn of history. I hope this journey has given you a new appreciation for the incredible ingenuity and resilience of our ancient ancestors. The late 4th millennium BCE may seem incredibly distant, but its innovations in writing, governance, and urban planning are what make our modern, literate world possible. We're all standing on the shoulders of these ancient giants. Please let me know in the comments which part of this era you found most fascinating. Do you lean toward the administrative genius of the Sumerians, the monumental and religious power of early Egypt, or the enduring mystery of the Indus Valley? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more historical deep dives, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep exploring the past.